Good morning, Acadiana. This is Local News Live on AOC Community Media, a community service we provide each weekday at 9 a.m. for our vision impaired audience. We'll read articles from the Acadiana Advocate, local and state news, led by volunteer readers. We have Daniel Rayburn graciously from his home studio joining us this morning to read the news for us. Good morning, Daniel. Thanks again for joining us.
Oh, good morning. Thanks for having me again.
I'm going to throw things over to you and let you go ahead and just cover, get started. We got a lot of stories, I think, to cover today. So I'm just going to let you take over the show here.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Good morning, Acadiana. As Mandy said, we do actually have quite a few headlines to get to this morning. So I think we're just going to jump right in. Our first headline today, cases up again in Acadiana. Post-Thanksgiving bump arrives, reversing brief lull and false spike. This is by Ben Myers. After a brief lull, Acadiana's fall coronavirus outbreak appears to be ramping up again in the wake of the Thanksgiving holiday. Positivity is rising across the region, and the percentage of tests resulting in new cases is again rising as well. The trend is evident in the two different ways the state reports new test results. New cases as a proportion of tests dropped 11% on rolling 7-day bases for 3 straight days through December 2nd, the most recent date for which data is available via the state's weekly date of test report. This has not happened since mid-July. In November, when the fall spike began, the percentage of tests yielding new cases quickly surged above 10%, where it appeared to plateau and then slightly decrease in the days leading up to Thanksgiving. The state's daily reports show similar recent trends. Weekly caseloads began to dip at the end of last month, at a quicker pace than the test volumes. Cases then started to rebound this month, roughly in line with new tests. But case growth over the last 7 days nearly tripled the increase in new tests. The weekly reports assign test results to the days the tests were taken, and they are published on a 1-week lag. They are generally more reliable for tracking infectious spread than the state's daily reports, which publish lab results as the state receives them. For the most part, the daily reports show results within a few days of the test dates, but they sometimes include results that are weeks or months old, which can distort weekly trends. At the same time, the daily reports separate molecular and antigen test results. The weekly reports combine both types of test results. Molecular tests are more accurate, and people who test positive for the first time are counted as confirmed new cases. Those who test positive with an antigen test are counted as a probable new case. The weekly positivity rate in the 7 Parish Acadiana region, meanwhile, jumped from 10.7% to 12.5% as of December 2nd, according to the Louisiana Department of Health. Like the weekly date of test reports, positivity rates are released on a week lag. However, the department does not release the data underlying the calculations, which factor all positive test results, including multiple positives from people who test more than once in 1 week. The positivity rate also excludes results from labs that do not report negative test results. The resumed increase in new cases in Acadiana has not yet showed up in COVID-19 hospitalizations across the region at the start of this week, though that may be changing. As of Monday, there were 218 COVID-19 inpatients in the region, matching the average of the previous 7 days. But the Monday figure marked an increase of 6, and 5 more were added Tuesday. Prior to that, hospitalizations slightly decreased for 3 straight days. Our next headline: Catholic charities get $5 million grant to aid homeless. Funding comes from foundation launched by Amazon founder Bezos. This is written by Ken Stickney. Catholic Charities of Acadiana announced Wednesday that it has been selected to receive a $5 million grant from the Day One Families Fund, launched by Amazon founder Jeff Bezos, and focused on organizations and civic groups doing work to, among other things, help provide shelter to meet young families' immediate needs. Quote, "We are sincerely thankful for this investment in our community at this critical time when a growing number of families are facing homelessness in Acadiana as a result of COVID-19, Hurricane Laura, and Hurricane Delta," said Kim Boudreau, CEO of Catholic Charities of Acadiana. The current level of homelessness in Acadiana is the highest it's been in our nearly 50 years of serving the community. Our goal is that homelessness is rare, brief, and non-reoccurring. This grant will bolster our ability to compassionately respond to families in crisis. The one-time grant will allow Catholic Charities to invest in, quote, diversion services, working to reconnect families with their natural support systems and helping them avoid the traumatic experience of homelessness, the organization said in a statement. The money will also be used to redesign and expand the organization's family homeless shelter to allow for private sleeping arrangements and to, quote, implement a rehousing program that transitions families experiencing homelessness into permanent housing. Catholic Charities Family Homeless Shelter, the Emily House, opened in 2018. Quote, we've always wanted to make adjustments to that shelter to benefit families, but that takes an investment, said Ben Broussard, Catholic Charities spokesperson. We didn't have the funds to do that. This will help us reach that goal. The Bezos Day One Fund was launched in 2018 with a commitment of $2 billion and focus on two areas: funding existing nonprofits that help homeless families and creating a network of new nonprofit Tier 1 preschools in low-income communities. Broussard said Catholic Charities of Acadiana must use the one-time grant for purposes stated in its application, addressing the needs of families facing the threat of homelessness, modifying Catholic Charities Family Shelter to better fit families' needs, and providing efficient means of putting families in stable situations. Quote, the gift is restricted to battling family homelessness in Acadiana, he said, which comes with a weight of specific responsibilities. The gift cannot be used for other programs of the local Catholic Charities, which include St. Joseph's Diner, Stella Maria's Hygiene Center, and Catholic Charities Disaster Response. Catholic Charities of Acadiana is one of 42 nonprofits across the country to receive the third annual Day One Families Fund grant. Among others sharing in awards are Anchorage Coalition to End Homelessness, Hope Atlanta, Coalition for the Homeless of Central Florida, Coalition on Homelessness and Housing in Ohio, Denver Indian Family Resource Center, East Los Angeles Women's Center, St. Vincent de Paul Cares, and the Salvation Army Austin Area Command. Quote, it is by far the largest gift in our history, Broussard said. And back to COVID news. Our headline, 97 new student virus cases reported. Lafayette Parish's weekly count tied for third most in state. Lafayette Parish was tied for the third most new student COVID-19 cases in the state this past week after nearly 100 weekly cases. Lafayette Parish was tied with Ascension Parish at 97 reported student COVID-19 cases, behind only St. Tammany Parish with 141 cases, and Jefferson Parish with 112 cases. The cases were reported between November 30th and December 6th by 65 participating Lafayette Parish schools, according to the Louisiana Department of Health's data table. That is the most student cases Lafayette has reported in a single week. The Department of Health began reporting student COVID-19 cases by parish in mid-October as a subset of its outbreaks page. The agency issued a September emergency order requiring all pre-kindergarten through 12th grade public, private, and charter schools to report COVID-19 cases among students and on-campus adults to a centralized database, which provides weekly reports to the public. Student cases in Lafayette schools have climbed every week since parish-level data was made available in October, except between November 23rd and November 29th, when 32 student cases reported, a decline that could be attributed to the Thanksgiving break. Before that, weekly cases rose from 9 reported between October 12th and 18th to 83 between November 16th and the 22nd. Lafayette now has 402 total reported student COVID-19 cases, the second most in the state behind St. Tammany Parish, which has reported 471 total student cases. The school reported cases mirror increases in community COVID-19 spread as Louisiana weathers a third virus wave. Public health officials have warned case spread in schools will mimic community activity. On Wednesday, the health department reported 2,672 more confirmed coronavirus cases statewide, with additional probable cases, including 167 additional confirmed cases in Lafayette Parish. Quote, "Our region is leading the state in its third wave," Dr. Tina Stefanski, Region 4 Medical Director for the Health Department, said, reiterating her plea for residents to continue wearing masks, washing hands, and practicing social distancing throughout the holiday season during a Tuesday news conference. While not all school systems in Region 4, the 7-parish area roughly comprising Acadiana, have seen almost week-over-week increases in student COVID-19 cases, several other parishes saw their biggest caseload in a single week between November 30th and December 6th, including St. Martin Parish with 28 cases and Vermilion Parish with 20 cases. The increase in cases isn't limited to students in schools. Lafayette also reported the most cases in a single week among Lafayette teachers and adults in schools, 53, since parish-specific reporting began. Other Region 4 parishes also recorded their highest number of teacher cases in 1 week, including Acadia Parish with 14 cases, St. Martin with 13 cases, and Vermilion with 17 cases. Lafayette Parish also has the second highest number of total reported teacher and student adult cases in the state at 187, second to East Baton Rouge Parish, which had 196 reported faculty, staff, and volunteer cases as of the Health Department's Wednesday report. While we're in between headlines, due to COVID-19 and concerns for community spread, there's been a dramatic decrease in available shelter beds. Those beds will remain unavailable throughout the winter. That means many experiencing homelessness may have no other option than to sleep on the street. Throughout this pandemic, Arch has been able to utilize local hotel and motel rooms as temporary housing solutions. From there, case managers help our fellow Acadians transition to permanent housing. We are very proud of our success in keeping those we serve safe from COVID-19 and on their way to long-term stability. However, the number of homeless is growing, and winter is here. We need your help to get our neighbors out of the cold into warm, safe housing. Can you help today? Go to www.archacadiana.org. That's www.archacadiana.org. If you would prefer to give by check, please mail to Arch, ARCH, at P.O. Box 3936, Lafayette, Louisiana, 70502. Vitalant is still in urgent need for blood donations. Blood and pallet donations often drop off during the holiday months as fewer donors are available because of seasonal activities and illnesses. But this year, the outlook is particularly worrisome. With many schools transitioned to virtual learning and businesses in work-from-home situations, about 1,600 Vitalant blood drives have already been canceled for November and December. Currently, there is an urgent need for O-negative blood, the universal blood type that all patients can receive. O-negative donors can maximize their impact by giving a power red donation. We encourage donors to make an appointment by visiting vitalant.org or by calling 877-25-VITAL. That's 877-25-VITAL. And now back to the news. Our next headline: Lafayette Parish retail sales continue to rebound. This is brought to us by Adam Daigle. Total retail sales in Lafayette Parish should exceed last year's totals despite the COVID-19 shutdown earlier this year, data shows. The $568 million in sales in October was the second highest total since the pandemic began and puts the parish's yearly total less than 1% behind last year and 5% ahead of 2018, according to data released by the Lafayette Economic Development Authority. It was the best October on record and puts the parish on track to top $6 billion in total sales for the third straight year, despite the worst April in almost 10 years and the worst May since 2016. It comes after sales topped $600 million in September, the first time on record to reach that total in a month besides December. Quote, Not only does shopping in local stores keep sales tax revenue in our community to support schools, infrastructure, and safety, it also strengthens pride in our community and our business base, said Greg Gotro, President and CEO of the Economic Development Agency. LEDA's forecasting model shows a strong end to the year with $1 billion in sales expected in November and December, which would put us at the third highest total on record. Sales in Lafayette topped $392 million, also the second highest since the pandemic began, and the highest October on record. It follows the $420 million in sales in September, also the highest on record for a month besides December. The $3.6 billion in sales for the year is 2% behind last year's total, but 2% ahead of 2018, data shows. In Ncaa, sales reached $27.8 million, topping last October's $27.4 million, which was the highest total on record. The city is leading the way among all municipalities in the parish at 11% ahead of last year's total, on pace to top $300 million in sales for the year for the first time. Total sales in all other municipalities dropped in October from the previous month, data shows. Only Youngsville and Scott are ahead of last year's totals. Other data points in Lafayette include sales at grocery stores continue to slow, totaling $23.3 million for the lowest since the pandemic began. Restaurant sales topped $32.7 million, slightly below September's $33 million, but well ahead of the March and April totals that dropped to $22 million. Sales remain 11% behind last year's total. Sales at bars and nightclubs topped $2.2 million, putting sales at 31% behind last year. Hotel-motel receipts topped $7.5 million, the biggest money in 4 years. It comes after $7.45 million in September as displaced Lake Charles area residents remain following the hurricane season. And now to our next headline. June picked to lead SLCC. He was serving as interim chancellor. This is written by Ken Stickney. Interim Chancellor Vincent June has been named to the permanent position at South Louisiana Community College following a Wednesday vote by the Louisiana Community and Technical College Systems Board of Supervisors. The vote came in executive session during the supervisors' regular December meeting. The new chancellor replaces former chancellor Natalie Harder, who left SLCC on June 30th to become president at Coker University in South Carolina. She had been SLCC's chancellor for 8 years. Systems president and CEO Monty Sullivan will negotiate a salary with June, who is expected to start his permanent position in the spring semester. Harder's salary when she left SLCC was $217,895. June, 50, has spent the past 25 years working in higher education, first at Florida Gulf Coast College, where he was the youngest member of the leadership team, and later at Georgia Perimeter College in metropolitan Atlanta, a 2-year school and entryway to Georgia State University's system. Among his job was chief enrollment officer. Enrollment grew from 15,000 to 25,600 while he was there. He was a 2014-2015 ACE Fellow with the American Council on Education and spent his fellowship year at Cuyahoga Community College in Cleveland, which made him committed to his career in community colleges, he said. He came to SLCC as Vice Chancellor of Student Services and added to the role, becoming Vice Chancellor of Student and Academic Affairs. June earned a bachelor's degree in Business and Economics from Florida A&M University, and a master's in Business Economics and doctorate in Educational Leadership and Student Affairs at Washington State University. The other 3 final candidates included Mickey Best, former campus president for 2-year New Mexico State University grants, Heather Vigard, vice president of Lake Sumter State College in Florida, and Adrian Douglas, former president of Cloud County Community College in Kansas. The candidates were interviewed remotely in November, and met for 45 minutes each with two groups that included college officials and the public. The search committee included Timothy W. Hardy, Alderman, L. Chip Jackson, Terry Bradford, and Willie Mount of the System Board of Supervisors, Brett Mellington, Manager of Business Development, Lafayette Economic Development Authority, Darcy Becks, SLCC Interim Vice Chancellor of Academic and Student Affairs, Jeremy Basil, Attorney, Glen Armitar Law Corporation, Leslie Greco, Medical Director, Iberia Medical Center, Patrick Fontenot, President and CEO, Williams Progressive Life Insurance, Patrick Gibbons, SLCC Faculty Senate President, Samantha Leger, SLCC Student Government President, and Tanya St. Julian, SLCC Associate Professor. Our next headline, an outpouring of support. UL's Roy House hits fundraising goal as new home to Center for Louisiana Studies. This is also written by Ken Stickney. Enthusiasts for the 120-year-old former home of J. Arthur Roy, an early Lafayette business leader and community stalwart, have surpassed their goal of generating some $800,000 to restore the building at the intersection of University Boulevard and Johnson Street. About $400,000 was raised in the past few weeks, including a donation from a foundation based in Washington State. In the University of Louisiana at Lafayette's possession since the 1990s, the two-story, 5,000 square foot home is now due its first modern renovation. Once complete, possibly by 2022, it will house the Center for Louisiana Studies, which was founded in 1973 and is dedicated to researching, publicizing, promoting, and preserving Louisiana culture and history. Quote, despite the turmoil of 2020, we've received an outpouring of support this year, both from people who love the Roy House and value its architectural and historical significance, as well as from people who support the mission of the Center for Louisiana Studies, said Joshua C. Caffrey, director of the center. The center has three divisions: the University of Louisiana at Lafayette Press, the Research Division, and the Programming and Special Projects Division. That includes the Archive of Cajun and Creole Folklore, which the campus says is the largest collection of audiovisual materials related to traditional cultures of southwestern Louisiana. Caffrey said the restored building will provide an attractive first glimpse at the campus for visitors traveling University Boulevard from Interstate 10. The house is on the northwest corner of the campus and was built in 1901, the same year the campus first opened to students. Quote, the renovation of the Roy House and its lot will transform one of Lafayette's busiest intersections and contribute to the citywide effort to beautify the university corridor. Caffrey said much of the restoration money was raised this year through private donations and grants, the last of which came in the last month, almost $400,000 from the Sage Foundation of E.W. Littlefield Jr., a philanthropist who was long involved in the music industry, is its president and treasurer. Quote, the interest we received from out of state is a testament to the fact that Acadiana culture continues to be of significant national and even international interest, Caffrey said. Littlefield has a long history both as a musician and supporter of the arts and music efforts. The Sage Foundation has more than $52 million in assets and routinely funds projects around the country, according to its website. Quote, he's someone who knows Cajun and Creole music and is an advocate for traditional music in America, Caffrey said. Littlefield has, quote, local contacts in the Cajun and Creole music world. Caffrey said the next steps include assembling a restoration team to include architects and contractors and to secure appropriate permits and approvals. He said the Roy is the sole building on campus on the National Registry of Historic Places and must meet specific guidelines, including those from the state, for a restoration. He said bids have been collected to paint the home's exterior, which may begin soon. Quote, our goal is to launch a major interior restoration by spring, hopefully by mid-April or early May. Everyone I've spoken to says it will take more than a year. A year would be ambitious. Realistically, we're looking at 2022, spring or beyond. The former residence was built by Roy, who was born in 1837, and was a son-in-law of local newspaper publisher and former Lafayette Mayor William B. Bailey. Roy's wife, Cornelia, was Bailey's daughter. The couple lived in the home with their 8 children, who included J. Maxim Roy, Lafayette mayor from 1936 to 1944. The wood frame home was designed by architect Arthur Van Dyke and built by George Nape, who built the Gordon Hotel in downtown Lafayette in 1904. The building needs new plumbing and electrical systems, central air conditioning and heat, modern insulation in the walls, ceiling, and floors, and new interior and exterior paint. Restoring the elaborate ornamental wood and tile work that adorns the home's interior will receive special attention, Caffrey said. Quote, "The Roy house's true treasures are in its interior touches, the quality of the mantelpieces, the staircase, and the woodwork and tile work in general. At some point, that woodwork was painted over, but we'll be bringing it back to its original natural finish. In addition, the grounds of the home will be landscaped with native plants and flowers." A survey of the property said the home provides an excellent example of Queen Anne style. The home was said to have an elevator. An investigation showed it had a dumbwaiter lift between the first and second floor bathrooms. Ceilings are 12 feet high on the first floor, 10 feet high on the second. Caffrey said the additional money raised will go towards landscaping and an endowment. Although the money has been raised, he said not all of it has been collected. Caffrey said fundraising will continue for the Roy to maintain the building after its restoration. Quote, "The center will continue to raise funds to build an endowment for the maintenance of the home in the future and to encourage programming at the site once the restoration is complete." All right. We'll take a moment between the headlines here. Request for mosquito control now available through Lafayette 311. Lafayette Consolidated government is increasing mosquito abatement efforts in the parish. An increase in mosquito activity is a common occurrence following a storm event. Citizens noticing an influx of mosquitoes in their area can now use the Lafayette 311 portal to request service. All submitted requests are routed directly to Mosquito Control Services, the mosquito control contractor for the parish. AOC has teamed up with the United Way of Acadiana for Learn United. The United Way of Acadiana has teamed up with AOC and other local educational groups for Learn United, bridging the digital gap to provide educational resources for households that don't have internet but do have a television. The Learn United programs air weekdays from 8 to 2 on AOC, which is Cox 16 or LUS 4, and streaming at aocinc.org/watch. That is aocinc.org/watch. And for the daily schedule, and to submit content for the program, visit the United Way of Acadiana website at unitedwayofacadiana.org/learn-united. That's United Way of Acadiana, all one word, .org/learn-united. One more here. If you're feeling overwhelmed with stress, fear, and anxiety about the uncertainty surrounding this public health emergency, there's a special Keeping Calm Through COVID hotline you can call. This connects you to trained, compassionate counselors who can offer support and who can direct you to mental health and substance abuse counseling services. Trained counselors are available 24/7. All calls are confidential. Please call 1-866-310-7977. Again, that's 1-866-310-7977. Moving away from the news for just a moment, we're going to take a look at the deaths in the area today, followed by Today in History, and then a look at our horoscopes before returning back to the headlines. The funerals today in the Acadiana area, there's only one. It's for Otis Smith. Service will be at the First United Methodist Church at 10 a.m. For our Today in History, brought to you by the Associated Press, today is Thursday, December the 10th. It is the 345th day of 2020. There are 21 days left in the year. So today's highlight in history, on December 10th, 1964, Martin Luther King Jr. received his Nobel Peace Prize in Oslo, saying he accepted it with an abiding faith in America and an audacious faith in the future of mankind. On this date in 1861, The Confederacy admitted Kentucky as it recognized a pro-Southern shadow state government that was acting without the authority of the pro-Union government in Frankfort. In 1869, women were granted the right to vote in the Wyoming Territory. In 1898, a treaty was signed in Paris, officially ending the Spanish-American War. In 1950, Ralph J. Bunche was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize, the first Black American to receive the award. In 1967, singer Otis Redding, 26, and 6 others were killed when their plane crashed into Wisconsin's Lake Monona. Trumpeter Ben Colley, a member of the group The Bar-Kays, was the only survivor. In 1987, President Ronald Reagan and Soviet leader Mikhail S. Gorbachev concluded 3 days of a summit talk in Washington. In 1994, Yasser Arafat, Shimon Peres, and Yitzhak Rabin received the Nobel Peace Prize, pledging to pursue their mission of healing the anguished Middle East. In 1996, South African President Nelson Mandela signed the country's new constitution into law during a ceremony in Sharpeville. In 2007, suspended NFL star Michael Vick was sentenced by a federal judge in Richmond, Virginia, to 23 months in prison for bankrolling a dogfighting operation and killing dogs that underperformed. Vick served 19 months at Leavenworth. In 2009, President Barack Obama accepted the Nobel Peace Prize with a humble acknowledgement of his scant accomplishments and a robust defense of the U.S. at war. In 2013, General Motors named Product Chief Mary Barra its new CEO, making her the first woman to run a U.S. car company. This day 10 years ago, the Norwegian Nobel Committee honored Chinese literary critic Liu Xiaobo, imprisoned by urging political reform, by presenting his $1.4 million Nobel Peace Prize diploma and medal to an empty chair. 5 years ago, the Senate Judiciary Committee rebuked Donald Trump by endorsing a non-binding amendment, 16-4, that said barring individuals from entering the United States based on religion would be un-American. The Republican president frontrunner had called for blocking Muslims from entering the country in the aftermath of attacks in the United States and abroad. 1 year ago, House Democrats in the White House announced agreement on modified North American Trade Pact to replace the North American Free Trade Agreement. Let's look at a few birthdays for today. Today's birthdays include actor Tommy Kirk, who is 79. Pop singer Chad Stewart is 79 as well. Actor-singer Gloria Loring is 74. Pop-funk musician Walter Clyde Orange of the Commodores is also 74. Country singer Johnny Rodriguez is 69. Actor Susan Day is 68. Jazz musician Paul Hardcastle has turned 63. Actor John York of TV's General Hospital is 62. TV chef Bobby Flay has turned 56. Rock singer Jay Mascis of Dinosaur Jr. has turned 55. Actor-comedian Arden Mirren is 47. Rock musician Meg White of the White Stripes has turned 46. Actor Gavin Houston has turned 43. Actor Alano Miller is 41. Violinist Sarah Chang has turned 40. And country singer Megan Lindsay is 35. To today's zodiac, and for our horoscopes. For the Sagittariuses, which is birth dates of November 23rd to December 21st. Look at your assets, what others expect of you, and what you are capable of doing. Be honest with yourself and others, and offer only what's reasonable. You don't have to impress anyone. For our Capricorns, which is birth dates of December 22nd to January 19th, stay focused on what you want to accomplish and build a strong, stable home environment that will soothe your soul. Don't let matters concerning institutions escalate. For Aquarius, which is birth dates of January 20th to February 19th, be observant, but don't let outside matters consume you. Be diligent when it comes to taking care of your responsibilities, and protect your reputation, position, and status as you move forward. To our Pisces, which is birth dates of February 20th to March 20th. Personal growth, improving your physical appearance, and romance will elevate stress and encourage happiness. Follow through with a creative endeavor that utilizes your skills. For our Aries, which are birthdays of March 21st to April 19th. A lifestyle change may scare you, but doing nothing will lead to regret. Believe in your ability to make things happen and to handle whatever comes your way. For Taurus, which is birthdays of April 20th to May 20th. Look over contracts, negotiate, and consider your options. Don't let someone's uncertainty drag you down. Make decisions that are in your best interest. Romance will ease stress. For the Geminis, which is birthdates of May 21st to June 20th. Don't believe everything you hear or participate in events that go against your beliefs. Be true to yourself, honest about how you feel, and determined to live life your way. For Cancer, which is June 21st to July 22nd birthdates, handled shared expense with care. Concentrate on personal improvement, health, fitness, and looking your best. How you present yourself to the world will make a difference. For Leo, which is birthdays of July 23rd to August 22nd. Strive for perfection. Be responsible and do your research before you make a move. A unique offer may tempt you, but you're better off doing your own thing. Challenge your mind. For Virgo, which is birthdays of August 23rd to September 22nd. Look for a unique opportunity and strive to do your very best. What you master today will lead to a new and exciting way to live your life. Romance looks promising. For Libras, which is birthdates of September 23rd to October 23rd. Walk away from adversity and towards intellectual stimulation and educational pursuits. A change of heart will help you realize what you want out of life and how to make it happen. And finally, for Scorpio, which is birthdates of October 24th to November 22nd. A reserved approach to prospects, coupled with behind-the-scenes work to put everything in place, will lead to the success you crave. Medicaid is now covering coronavirus testing for Louisiana residents without insurance. This coverage is available to people without insurance who are Louisiana residents until the end of the federal public health emergency. You must also be a U.S. citizen or meet immigration status requirements to qualify. If you need to find a doctor near you doing testing, please dial 211. If you have questions, call us at 1-888-544-7996. You can apply for coverage in the doctor's office so that you do not have to pay for testing. When you go to get tested, the provider may ask you to apply for Medicaid. They will help you fill out the simple form. You can get to the application at www.healthy.la.gov, a provider, or you can submit the paper application by email, fax, or mail. You can also call 1-888-544-7996 to apply over the phone. You can send completed paper applications by email to COVID uninsured, COVIDUNINSURED @la.gov, by fax to 1-886-852-0415, or by mail to COVID uninsured applications, P.O. Box 64808, Baton Rouge, Louisiana 70806. You only have to fill out this form once, even if you need multiple coronavirus tests. Coverage begins 3 months before application date and will stay in place through the end of this coronavirus event. For the latest COVID-19 updates and information, please visit www.311lafayette.services. Call centers with volunteers and medical professionals are active 24/7 to answer your questions about COVID and determine if you need to get screened. You may also call 311 and press option 2 if you're a business owner, employee, or are looking for a job to get information about applying for small business recovery loans, apply for unemployment benefits, and related programs. And now back to our headlines. 10 St. Landry inmates test positive for virus. 10 inmates have tested positive for the coronavirus during an outbreak at the St. Landry Parish Jail. St. Landry Parish President Jesse Bellard said in a Wednesday statement the parish government tested 45 inmates and employees recently, and 10 inmates tested positive. Those infected have been isolated from the general population and are being provided antibiotics and vitamins to fight the virus. None of the inmates have required hospitalization, Bellard said. Employees caring for and interacting with inmates have been outfitted with personal protective equipment. Quote, "We are following state and CDC protocols and are now managing our positive COVID cases per those protocols. We will continue to take the necessary steps to mitigate potential exposure." The parish leader said the jail facility has followed the Center for Disease Control and Prevention's COVID-19 protocols for jails and has added additional measures, like providing rapid tests to new people being booked into the jail and isolating any new inmates who test positive. A secondary headline: 2 shot in separate air gun shootings. Lafayette police said a man dressed as Santa was one of the 2 people shot Tuesday during 2 separate incidents involving an air gun. One of the shootings happened on Kali Saloom Road when a man dressed as Santa Claus was on a scooter by the Bayou Church and was shot with an air gun, according to Sergeant Wayne Griffin, spokesperson for the Lafayette Police Department. The second incident happened on the Evangeline Thruway near Chalmette Drive. A man was shot in the back with an air gun. Only minor injuries were reported. Witnesses and the victim of the second incident reportedly told police that the phrase "white power" was yelled by occupants inside the black car, which they said had a Confederate flag on it. Our next headline: Landry supports effort to block electoral vote. This is brought to us by Mark Bellard. Louisiana Attorney General Jeff Landry issued a statement supporting the state of Texas's request that the U.S. Supreme Court overturn the electoral vote in 4 states that went to President-elect Joe Biden. Quote, as I have repeatedly said, only the Supreme Court can ultimately decide cases of real controversy among the state under our Constitution, and that is why the justices should hear and decide this case. Landry wrote Wednesday upon announcing Louisiana would join a friend of the court brief filed to support the Texas lawsuit. Quote, while some in the media and the political class try to sidestep legitimate issues for the sake of expediency, I will continue to pursue legal remedies to protect our state's people from damage caused by other states counting unlawful votes or not counting lawful votes, Landry continued. Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton, a Republican, filed what is being described by some as a Hail Mary lawsuit, asking the U.S. Supreme Court justices to use their original jurisdiction powers to issue an order preventing Georgia, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin from casting its electoral votes to Joe Biden, who won the popular vote in each of those states. The High Court rarely uses original jurisdiction to wade into issues not specifically litigated by lower courts. State electors meet on December 14th to cast their ballots in the Electoral College and officially name the next president. Paxton argues that the 4 states improperly used the COVID-19 pandemic to flood voting with absentee mail ballots that weakened security measures, quote, protecting the integrity of the vote signature verification and witness requirements. Quote, even without the defendant states challenging actions here, the election nationwide saw a massive increase in fraud-prone voting by mail, the lawsuit contends. Landry joined 16 attorneys generals, all Republican, on a friend of the court brief written by Missouri Attorney General Eric S. Schmidt and in support of the Texas complaint. Quote, the states have a strong interest in preserving the proper role of state legislators in the administration of federal elections and thus safeguarding the individual liberty of their citizens, Schmidt wrote. Katie Bird, a spokesperson for Georgia Attorney General Christopher Carr, who in January replaced Landry as chair of the National Republican Attorney Generals Association, told the Dallas Morning News that the Texas challenge, quote, is constitutionally, legally, and factually wrong about Georgia. Indeed, the Georgia Attorney General got it right, and instead of continuing to sow doubt and distrust in the 2020 election, state AGs, regardless of party, should continue to speak out in support of the will of the people and protecting our democracy, said Attorneys General Maura Healey of Massachusetts and Aaron Ford of Nevada. They are co-chair of the Democratic Attorney General's Association. Paxton's legal action was filed hours before the Supreme Court on Tuesday, and a single sentence with no noted dissents rejected Kelly versus Pennsylvania, which had asked the High Court to forbid Pennsylvania from certifying its 2020 election results because the state legislature provision of a no-excuse absentee voting violated both the Pennsylvania and U.S. constitutions. The order was a major setback for President Donald Trump and his allies, who have lost 50 legal challenges to the results of the November 3rd election because the scattershot allegations lacked any evidence. Landry and his staff did not respond to requests for interviews Wednesday. U.S. Representative Mike Johnson, a Republican of Bossier City, tweeted, quote, "Today I made arrangements to file an amicus brief in Texas case now pending at the Supreme Court on behalf of House Republicans who are all deeply concerned about the integrity of our election system." His earlier tweet, quote, "Also today, my friend Louisiana Attorney General Jeff Landry agreed to join our state as a party to the case in support of Texas. Stay tuned for big developments." Landry earlier had tied Louisiana to a friend of court brief, also written by Schmidt, that supported a challenge to Pennsylvania vote totals based on the argument that the Pennsylvania Supreme Court improperly overruled the state Republican majority General Assembly by allowing the counting of mail ballots postmarked on Election Day, but arriving up to 3 days later. Quote, "Only the Supreme Court can ultimately decide cases of real controversy among the states under our Constitution. That is why the justices should hear and decide the case which we have joined representing the citizens of Louisiana," Landry said in his statement Tuesday night. Louisiana's junior U.S. Senator, John Kennedy, a Republican of Madisonville, sent out a mass email recently that questioned the election's result. Louisiana Illuminator, a news website, reported Tuesday. Kennedy claimed, quote, "A lot of tomfoolery went on during the election. I'm not saying that something did happen, but I'm not so sure something didn't happen," he wrote. Republican U.S. Senator Bill Cassidy of Baton Rouge tweeted on November 23rd that while he voted for Trump, Biden won. Quote, "President Trump's legal team has not presented evidence of massive fraud, which would have had to be presented to overturn the election." Our next headline. Woman sues over unemployment. Driver files lawsuit seeking $15,200 back pay. After nearly 2 months of not getting an unemployment check, Baton Rouge native Melissa Clark filed a lawsuit against the Louisiana Workforce Commission seeking more than $15,200 in unemployment benefits. It's been more than 9 months since Clark has worked as a driver for Uber and Lyft. Clark filed the lawsuit in the 19th Judicial District Court on Monday, which appears to be the first lawsuit in the East Baton Rouge Parish tied to an unemployment benefits dispute. She was an independent contractor for the ride-hailing apps, while the coronavirus pandemic spread widely in Louisiana. Last year, she earned about $17,800 between Uber and Lyft, according to her tax records. Clark said she had been out of work since mid-March and attempted to file unemployment then, but the system was overwhelmed. So she filed for pandemic unemployment assistance, a federal program for independent contractors authorized through the federal corona relief bill. The program included $600 in payments per week through the end of July. She's gotten some payments so far, she said, but is missing several months' worth. In October, the state stopped paying weekly benefits of $247 through its own program, Clark said. Quote, "If I would have been getting my weekly unemployment payments, I wouldn't have been even gone in this direction. They've just left me no choice," she said of the lawsuit. "Getting in touch with the states to resolve issues can be difficult," she said. "I was on hold for 5 hours and then they ended up hanging up on me," she said. "It's kind of like I'm in limbo. I can't get through to talk to anyone about what's going on." Clark said her case has already been reviewed and investigated by the state agency and isn't pending any further information from her. She's concerned about turning on the ride-hailing apps to accept riders again until there's a vaccine because she has a chronic illness and doesn't want to contact coronavirus. In the meantime, her roommate has been paying the full rent at her apartment. If that wasn't the case, she would likely be homeless by now, she said. Quote, I've just been borrowing money from other people. My car note is due on the 14th now, and I don't have the money to pay it. The Louisiana Workforce Commission declined to comment, citing policy that it doesn't comment on ongoing litigation. The state agency has been sorting through tens of thousands of new unemployment benefits applications since November 5th, in a review for potential fraud after the state had seen 2 surges in new claims. But several hours after the advocate inquired about the lawsuit, Clark said that she noticed that there were several checks on the state's website pending to hit her bank account soon, though likely not all the back pay owed. Since the checks are pending, the amount is unknown. Quote, it feels good. It may mean that my grandchildren will have some Christmas presents this year, and I can pay my bills, Clark said. And now we'll take one more short break between headlines before heading on to sports. Individuals whose hours are being reduced at work or have been laid off from unemployment may qualify for unemployment insurance benefits. If you're attempting to apply for unemployment insurance and are not able to access an existing online account or need help resetting your password, please call Lafayette's Acadiana Workforce Solutions office at 337-262-5601. That's 337-262-5601. Due to high call volume, some calls may not be answered immediately. Call again at a later time, or contact one of Louisiana's other local offices for assistance. In addition to unemployment insurance benefits, individuals looking for supplemental income can consider local employment opportunities with businesses who are seeking temporary, part-time, and full-time workers by visiting the COVID-19 Help Wanted resource page at www.lafayette.org/helpwanted, or LEDA's virtual job fair page, with local businesses seeking to hire local candidates for full-time employment opportunities at www.lafayette.org/jobs. And now we'll take a look at today's sports headlines. Only a couple of those today. Our first, LSU imposes bowl ban. Sanction stems from others levied in October for an ongoing NCAA rules violation case. And this was written by Brooks Cabina. LSU announced Wednesday night that it has added a 1-year bowl ban to its self-imposed sanctions stemming from an ongoing NCAA rules violation case. The sanctions are added to penalties that LSU self-imposed in October when the school decided it will cut 8 football scholarships over the next 2 years, reduce recruiting visits, and ban Odell Beckham Jr. from its facilities for 2 years after the former LSU wide receiver handed out $2,000 in cash on the field after January's national championship game. LSU has self-imposed the penalties in the months after a series of infraction cases were taken up by an independent enforcement panel, which will ultimately decide what final sanctions will be levied in an investigation that has stretched more than 2 years. A postseason ban was initially part of the conversation between the NCAA and LSU, a source confirmed by the Advocate in October, and the university backed away from such a severe penalty at first. Now, with 2 games remaining in LSU's regular season, the school has imposed the bowl ban. Quote, this decision reflects LSU's commitment to compliance with NCAA regulations and maintenance of institutional control, the university said in a statement. We regret the impact that this decision has on our current student athletes, but we make it in the best interest of the football program and university. LSU will continue to cooperate with the NCAA and the IARP throughout the enforcement process. LSU is veering towards its first losing record since 1999. But athletic director Scott Woodard said in a radio interview last week that a bowl game was still more than likely to happen since the NCAA waived win requirements and the Southeastern Conference has 9 ties to bowl games. LSU coach Ed Ogeron also welcomed the opportunity to play in a bowl game on Monday because a bowl date would give his program almost 2 extra weeks of practice. Now, LSU will not play in a bowl game for the first time since the '99 season. The Tigers will play at number 6 Florida on Saturday, then finish the season at home against Ole Miss on December 19th. Quote, I respect the university's decision to proactively address NCAA issues from the past, LSU coach Ed Ogeron said in a statement. I share the disappointment of our student athletes who will not be able to compete this season in a bowl game. I'm especially proud of our players' dedication to the program during these unprecedented times in our country. Their pride in LSU will be the driving force as we continue to build a championship program. The NCAA has investigated LSU's program for 3 separate potential rule violations, while its enforcement staff looks into claims of imperishable payments given to recruits by men's basketball coach Will Wade, an ongoing investigation that entered the Independent Accountability Resolution process in late September. No notice of allegations has been sent to LSU. LSU didn't object to its basketball case being referred to the IARP as long as the NCAA investigation into the football programs weren't lumped into the same case. LSU believes its football cases were closer to resolution, and if combined with basketball, the process would take an unnecessarily long period of time to conclude. According to documents obtained by the advocate through a public records request, the NCAA enforced state-confirmed John Paul Funes, former chief fundraiser for Our Lady of the Lakes Hospital, arranged employment beginning in 2012 for the parents of former offensive lineman Vidal Alexander, and paid his father $180,000 between 2012 and 2017 for a, quote, no-show job. The NCAA also looked into when Beckham was recorded on film handing out money to LSU players after the national championship game on January 13th. LSU worked quickly to recover the money, according to NCAA documents, and helped investigate. The NCAA has also discovered a potential recruiting violation in January 2019 involving Ogeron. According to the NCAA documents, LSU's attorneys wrote Ogeron was interviewed by the university's outside counsel and compliance staff. He admitted to inadvertent but impermissible contact with a prospect, documents said. The compliance staff reported the violation to the NCAA on July 31st, 2019. LSU's self-imposed penalties, which included 30 days off the road during the next recruiting period for Ogeron, plus a reduction in the total number of permissible off-campus contacts with the involved prospect. And now we will look at our final sports and our final headline of the day. Manic delivered big plays for Cajuns. UL's edge rusher showed growth, improved against Mountaineers. This is brought to us by Kevin Foote. Until the final celebration after Appalachian State missed a potential game-tying field goal with 1 second left, the game itself wasn't a lot of fun for most of the UL Ragin' Cajuns. It was cold, wet, and windy, and just downright miserable. Certainly for the quarterbacks, wide receivers, and of course the long snappers. Others, however, were having a blast. It was a dream game for many of the defensive players, especially Chauncey Manick. While his teammates were still thawing after the game, the redshirt senior edge rusher was walking around with a huge smile on his face. Quote, yeah, Manick laughed shortly after the win. It was fun for me. It just felt like the old days. Rec league ball, you know? Raining. I was just having fun out there today, to be honest. I wasn't even worried about the cold and the rain. The self-proclaimed, quote, country boy from South Georgia just seemed to deliver big play after big play down the stretch for the Cajuns, who improved to a 9-1 record with their 24-21 win over the Mountaineers. He finished with 6 tackles, a sack, and 2 stops behind the line, and an interception. On the critical sack with 2 minutes and 9 seconds left and the Mountaineers in field goal range, 1 possession before the infamous intentional safety, Manick credited his coaches in his pregame preparation. Quote, play calling and just knowing my strengths and weaknesses, he said. Just reading the lineman, what he was going to do. I saw him waiting on me, so it was just like I could go speed and power. I felt like it worked out. Midway through the second quarter, Manick delivered an acrobatic interception for a 6'3", 251-pounder. Quote, I'm getting old, man, Manick joked. Quote, it was his first interception of his life in a game, but he had done it before in practice, he said. I had about 2 or 3 of the same exact picks in practice, and I feel like you practice like you play. I just waited for my opportunity, and I just thank God for putting me in the right position. I had a few in practice on Friday, and it just sort of paid off. Few were more proud of Manick's big performance to finally help beat Appalachian State than head coach Billy Napier. Quote, I just talked to him in the locker room, Napier said. I was just really proud. He was a disruptive force on Friday. He played well on the edge. Chauncey's one of those guys who is really growing up as a person, and he's really improved as a football player. The guy's got a bright future in front of him. I'm really proud of him, the way he competed in the game on Friday. Of course, Manic was by no means the only UL defender to shine in the game. Senior linebacker Farad Gardner had 10 tackles, a half sack, and a stop behind the line. Senior tackle Taylon Humphrey added 7 tackles, and end Andre Jones added 7 tackles as well, with a half sack and a stop behind the line. Mekhi Garner added an interception as well. Quote, "No doubt, it was that kind of game," Napier said of how good his defense played. "We needed to be. I couldn't be more complimentary of our defense." Napier showed the utmost confidence in the defense by tasking the 35-yard intentional safety by making the score 25-21 with 1 minute and 51 seconds left. It felt like it meant a lot, Manic said. When you get a certain type of opportunity like that, you don't want it to go to waste. I just felt like we stood up as a defense and did what we were supposed to do. Manic said nothing needed to be said in the huddle before the Mountaineers' final drive. We just knew. Everyone playing gaps, do your assignment, and do their 1-11, and everything was going to work out just like it worked. Garner, for one, admitted he took a big gulp before the drive started. He said. First it was like, we got this. But second, I was a little nervous. The game is on you. What are you going to do? We prevailed and came through. Manic called the win a big relief. It showed how mentally tough the Cajuns' defense is. It also showed how Manic's preservation, first signing with Georgia and then battling through injuries and transferring to UL, paid off in style. Quote, "I feel like we've been through so much," Manic said. "I just feel like tough times make you even stronger people. All the things us as a team have been, and I just feel like every game we've been getting better, as a defense and as an offense." And that's our final headline for today. Thank you for tuning in for the news. Please join us again tomorrow. And have a great day, Acadiana.